That's you up on there on a camel, is it?
Yes.
Wow. Isn't that a great shot?
It is a good shot. The bloke who was with me is no longer with us. He was killed in Princehaven.
Was he?
Nearly all my friends are gone now,
Yeah.
of course, because I'm nearly 88, so I suppose I can expect it. We were in Borneo, and we knew that what we were doing was going to have no... You knew the war was nearly finished, and you knew what we were doing, what they were doing in Bougainville, what they were doing in New Guinea, and you knew Britain was going to have no different thoughts. And you know, nearly 1,000 Australians were killed. That was principally, it was the government, not so much the government, it was blamey, bloody optimism, and the top brass. They wanted to be in it, let's be in it. The poor old dog, we all knew too, and we were all crying, but I suppose our professional pride kept us going more than anything.
And I guess you've ordered to do a job, so that's what you do.
We were, but we hated it.
Yeah.
We hated the very thought of it, and we were lucky. We went there, we saw very, very little in Borneo. There was no Japs there. If I was over the other side of Borneo, at Balikpapan and Tarakan Island, they saw plenty. But we saw, I think we had two men killed, I think. And we laugh about that, but the two men who were killed was a bit important to them and their families.
That's right. Where did you sail from?
Sydney. We went from Brisbane to Sydney. We sailed on the Queen Mary, which at the time was the biggest ship in the world. And I was flabbergasted when I saw it. I'd never been south of Rocky before until I joined the army. See this great monster thing. We went there, we went to Colombo. We transshipped at a place called Trincomalee, which was a naval base just beside Colombo, onto both called the Indrapura. The filthiest, dirtiest boat that was ever put on this earth was the Indrapura, Dutch boat. Got off in the middle of the canal at a place called Kantara. Went to Palestine. And we're only in Palestine a month, and they sent us up the desert. And we'd never done a manoeuvre, we'd never done anything. We were virtually untrained. They shot us up the desert, reckoned there was no enemy and all this, and went up to a place called Tel El-Aysad, which is the furthest place that anybody ever went to in Libya. We were war full of light, and we were going to be and see the delights of further down. We were going to take all of Libya, and we were going to play Merry Hell, but we didn't know there was a few Germans in front of us. Anyway, they attacked. We came back to Brook, and they all said we retreated to Brook. It was the greatest rabble you ever saw in all your life. We went for our lives. And my battalion, our colonel, our 2IC, the padre, a couple of company commanders, and quite a few friends of mine, they all got captured. 175 of them got captured. But I was attached to a different company, and we got figured out. But I mean, you've no idea. To see an army in retreat, in proper retreat, as we were fleeing for our lives, it was a complete and absolute rabble. And I was in an infantry battalion, the 2nd 15th, which, if you know anything about war, you know they're the suckers of war, the infantry battalion. The infantry and the engineers, they're the suckers. And well, there was about 14 or 15 planes and that's no exaggeration, having a dogfight right over the top of us. He broke through the battalion in front of us. We were in reserve with 34 tanks, I think the official history says. And right beside us was a team of Pommy artillery. They knocked out 17 of them. There was tanks going everywhere, and it was like there was a plane crashed right beside me. Flight Sergeant Webster in it, I remember, and he was dead. He was no chance in the world. But I've never seen anything like it. Plane going over there, and we were firing machine guns at these tanks. We might have been firing Shanghais, but the artillery was marvellous. They lost about half their arty because he was at them, but then they got out. And we've always claimed, whether it's true or not, that's the first time the German was ever defeated for anything he went to take. He had 30-odd tanks, and he came in with 4,000 or 5,000 troops, which was a small effort, really. But it's a fight we won, and you had no idea how much better we felt after. We can beat this bastard, you know. It was right in our minds we could beat him. But it was very nasty. And it was Tobruk was full of flies and fleas and rats and I mean everything. And the neighbours were most unneighbourly, but they were horrible. But except the Germans and not the Autos so much. They were don't want to say anything nasty about the Italians, but the Germans were our real enemy. That's what we really. They're the ones we really told them. The Italians outnumbered them 2-1, but they could have outnumbered them 6-1. That wouldn't have mattered. And well, we held it for eight months. I got jaundice, and I was taken out about 3 weeks before the rest of them came back. And
where were you in hospital?
In Alexandria, and I was in there for about 3 weeks, and because I was sick, I was run down. I was only about 8.5 stone. I was very skinny, but I was pretty miserable. I always remember they sent us out for a leave for one day, and they said, "Now don't get on the grog." Of course, the first thing we did was go to the first pub we could see in the road, so we had a whale of a time. After the book we came back, I finished up joining battalion up in Syria. We were in Tripoli at the time, and I always remember there, it was just before Alamein, and we heard rumours we were all going to be called home to be sent up the desert, so we all went missing. We went out, we went out of our digs, we had official places, and we went down the dregs of the town and lived in there for 2 days because they couldn't find us. And we came back and we were sent up to Alamein. Now Alamein was the biggest battle that the Australian troops were in the whole war, really. There was more troops engaged. There was about 150, 200,000 on our side and about 130, 140,000 on the German side, and it was 1,000 guns the night the artillery opened up. It's one of them, I've got a picture of them. It was one of the most magnificent sights you've ever seen, as far as you could see. It was, when you look back, it was all guns firing. We went there. It was a pretty miserable show, I can tell you. It was very nasty indeed. The German, it was his last throw in the Middle East. He fought, and he fought well. He was a good soldier. And we found him, we weren't never crooked on the German. I don't know why, but we never were. We always admired him a little bit because he was such a good soldier. But we outnumbered him and we defeated him. They talk about casualties today. They had 2 go over. We've had 2 since in the last two years, I think. Well, you read in these books, well, I had 5 and 6 every day, and when we went to this one, we did one show there called Balimba. We had 70-something 2 casualties in 2 hours, 72 killed, and 100 odd wounded. It was, never forget it. It was the blackest day of my life, really. It was a terrible thing. Anyway, we came back after we won it, and then we came back to Australia. But we were in Palestine, and we had this good time when we were back there. About a month, I suppose, we were back. I don't know what time, but early in February we got on the Aquitania, which was another big boat. I remember it had a big air-conditioned vent into there. And hot, it was hot. They wouldn't let you upstairs. So we got in with a bayonet, lying on your back, and we tapped the hole in this. Bang, bang, bang. We cut a hole about that big and just bent the thing back. We could get air out of it, and every morning we used to tap it all back. Anyway, we got back to Australia, had 3 weeks leave after 2.5 years. That was good. The army would go, anybody else in civilian would go crook now, but still in all, we thought it wasn't bad. Then in July we went up to New Guinea, in August probably, and then we went to Millen Bay, which was then nothing in Millen Bay. They'd taken it 12 months before. But then we went to Lae. We landed at Lae, and we had a bit of a scrap, but it wasn't bad at Lae. It wasn't that bad. But then they sent us to Finch Harbour, and that was a detestable place. It rained every day. I don't think it was dry in the 2 months we were there ever. And we had heavy casualties all the time. It's one of the last big fights he really made was him. He moved a division in against us, and that's when that's where I speak about MacArthur. He and Blamey never got on, and Blamey and all his staff were telling them there was 6,000 or 7,000 Japs in Finch. He said, no, there's only 500. Well, we landed there, and we were right in the middle of the 6,000 or 7,000 of them, and we had a. Well, we went with an ace, losing it a couple of times, and we would have been annihilated if we hadn't, because he was outnumbering us at the time. But it was there that I lost my closest friend. He was as close as you and I are now. And that fella, he was from here to the fridge with me the day he got killed. And at Alamein, I remember there's a bloke in the hole behind me. My hole was here, and his was over where the mat is, and it was a crook bomb. The shell came and hit the dirt between us. Had it gone off, it would have killed us both, but we just went through and cut him in half, our CSM. But that's all friends. I can get very sentimental about them now. I probably think they were better men than they really were, but they were good soldiers and they were good blokes. So we came back, and then they sent us away, and we went to Morotai. And the day we got to Morotai, I always remember the day the Germans tossed it in. And they said, and we said, oh, this is great, the Japs won't go on now. Anyway, they sent a brigade to Tarakan, and they had a terrible time. It was an awful island. And one of the worst casualties after Milton Bay, after over the hump, the Kokoda Trail, it was one of the worst things in there. Because they said, when they were mad, sending them in there, they said, because he had nowhere to go, it was an island. And being Japs, he just fought till he died. And he took a lot of our blokes with him.
So, Bruno Bay, how long were you in the area for? Like, you've had the landing and...
About 4 months, and we had 1,000 people killed, and then how anybody could ever do it, how they could ever, and it never shortened the war by a single minute. All the men knew, although I remember our officer telling me, he said, I don't think we'll see too much in Borneo. He said, there's not too much there, I don't think, but over on the other side in Tarakan there wasn't too many there, but I mean, they lobbed about 17,000 troops in Tarakan, and got 7,000 or 8,000 against them, but brother, they tore them apart because they had to fight for every inch of it, and they just, when they got to the end and they couldn't go any further, they just fought and died there. Anyway, I got out of the army and I went back to Cairns, and this is probably where I made more history than anything, really. Well, I got the BEM, and the same as the OAM, the British Empire Medal. Well, the first few years I was in Cairns, I didn't do very much because I was too busy. Every man had an idea he wanted to get married and have a couple of kids nowadays, and that's what we'll refer to the baby boomers. We had them straight off. I've always been very critical of men who said, I can't, the war gets it. I can't do it, the war gets me, and I reckon I can put it behind me. And I have put it behind me. I mean, if I come sometimes, you'll meet Barney or Bill, and they'll talk, and they'll say something, and say, all of a sudden they'll bring up and they'll say, remember Lou McIntyre, who was my closest friend. And they'll say, remember old Lou, and then for a minute I can shut my eyes and I can see Lou, 20 years of age. Today he was killed, and I can see him there, and for a few minutes it's just as though the time has stopped still. But when it's over and we're talking about who's going to win the football match on Saturday, and I'll never forget him, but I mean, I managed to keep it in. When I do think back, I'm proud of what I did after the war and what I did during the war, because, well, like a lot of soldiers, I'm a man of peace. And I believe that I nearly cried when they talked about sending troops to Iraq, and because they're not going to do any good. It never does any good. Look at it, after the war, just look what happened. Britain, she wins the war, and she's down in the dumps. Japan and Germany, they lose it, and they're living on a crest of a wave. I'm a man of peace now.